Everybody, welcome back to another Adventures of Pete. 68 Mustang, American Autowire harness install. Currently working on the rear body harness. So I just kind of sat there for days and thought about, I really would like to get these wrapped up real nice with sheathing and all this, and to look at the wiring harness, there was just all these crazy wires. Some were different length, and I just couldn't figure out how to even get started with it. So I just came out today and just started chipping away at it. So let me show you what I've done with this. So here's the beginning of the rear body harness connector. There's 3 wires that I've decided I'm not going to use. However, I don't know, I just could not leave them out of the harness. Basically, I was just going to remove them from the harness so there was less wires, but then I thought, well, I'm kind of basically saying these will never ever get hooked up, ever. Now basically these are courtesy light wires, and then another 12 ground lead that I'm not going to be using. So I kind of separated these a little bit here from the bigger harness, and then zip tied. So just started putting zip ties the whole way down this thing. I don't know, they're about every foot or so. Just when I would run my hand down the harness, it would seem like it would come to a spot where all the wires kind of fell nicely together, and I would zip tie them. And now you're starting to see some of the sheathing that I'm laying on. So a couple things about using this type of sheathing, because it's solid, it's not a split loom sheathing, is it does not like to run over zip ties. Whenever you start threading all this through, as soon as you come to a zip tie, it doesn't want to go through. So you really have to make sure you cut off that end really well with a little pair of nippers or something. Make sure that none of this stuff is sticking out to catch on that sheathing, because it will. And also there was a few wires towards the end that were they had like a bare end on them. I kind of like folded the wire back over so it was pointing this way, and all that copper wiring stuff wasn't being trying to force down the sheathing, and was getting caught up in there. So once I kind of bent the wire back so all the brass was pointing backwards, the sheathing slipped through it really nice. So that's where I'm at. It was kind of basically down to about here. Let's see here. I'm down to approximately here. So you can see I've got all of that loomed up. I'd say maybe about halfway or so. But basically you come down to this end where all your wires are, you just kind of inch it, and then you push all the excess sheathing down, and it just kind of starts pushing down that way. So it's a little slower going than I would want it to. You would think all these wires would just slip right in there, it'd be all nice, and but it's not. You really have to kind of inch the sheathing down through here, just kind of push it down through there to get it. And then the other thing to remember about this sheathing material is the ends want to fray really easily when you're pushing wires through there. So a little trick that I have here is I have just a piece of shrink wrap there, and I just kind of push it up there just to keep the ends from fraying really bad. So that's a cool little tip right there that I can share with everybody. If they're going to do this, it'll probably save you a lot of time. So again, I just wanted to, while I was doing this project, I just wanted to share some of the tips and tricks that have been I don't know, what do you want to call them, a little bit of a barrier for me to get over to kind of keep moving forward. things that have slowed me down that I'm hoping if I share these tips, they kind of speed you up with the process. So that's a couple things to remember. If you're going to use zip ties, nip them off real clean so they don't catch on the side of the sheathing when you're pushing it down. Put that little piece of shrink wrap on the end so the ends don't fray on you, and you should be good to go. So I'm going to keep pushing this sheathing down till I get to the end, and when I get there, I'm going to put that piece of shrink wrap on there with the heat gun. I'll show you when I get down to that end. So I'll be back in a little bit after I get all the sheathing done. But I hope these tips have helped a lot. So this is kind of like what I'm going to do on all the cables, hopefully, is run this sheathing over there and get all the wires nice and protected, and it'll look neat too. You won't notice that sheathing as much as all that multicolored wiring, so I think it'll look really nice. All right, I'll be back in a little bit, and we'll shrink wrap the end on there, and I'll show you how nice everything looks. All right, see you in a minute. All right, back. So got all that sheathing run the whole way up to the top here, so you can see what I'm working with here. I got that shrink wrap on the end, got the sheathing, so everything's going to be nice and bundled up. It's going to look so good. So yeah, when I got to the end, there's obviously a little bit of fraying here. I'm going to take a pair of scissors, clean that up really nice, push it right up to the end, push that shrink wrap up, hit that with the heat gun, and she's going to look awesome like that, I think. So you can see it's running the whole way down the length here. So this is a 1/2 inch, or no, this is 1 inch braided line here. Tech wrap, or whatever you want to call it, Chinese finger. So the end of my harness got to like right here, I believe. So I'm going to cut this off, but before I do, I'm going to go to the end of it here. Let's see if I can get it. And just stick this piece of oh man, it's hard to do. Stick this piece of shrink wrap over the end there, and then wherever I cut it, it won't be frayed, or it won't fray, and I'll have that piece of shrink wrap on the end already. So a little tip there. Usually I take and just wrap the ends too with like electrical tape so it doesn't start fraying as well until I get ready to use that piece, and then I take the tape off and go with shrink wrap. So nice little tip there. So let's see, I'm going to feed this up here. Yep, right in there. It's about where the wires go to. So go on right in there, maybe. And then I'll cut off the end, and then I'll be able to start at least running the wire harness to the back. I don't know about wiring it yet, but this was my main goal. This had been tripping me up and keeping me from moving forward, was just figuring out how to do the shrink wrap on it. I just kept thinking like, well, I don't need to put shrink wrap on the whole thing because it's only going to go to a certain part back in the trunk, and then it's going to split off. So basically the rear wiring harness originates, let's put a light on here, it originates in this kick panel here, and then there's one of these connectors, maybe that one there is for the rear harness. Let's see, no, it's not that one. So maybe this one here, maybe this one. Nope, I'll figure it out. It's definitely one of these connectors. So basically, maybe it's this one here, yeah. Nope, horn relay. But anyhow, I got to figure out which one of these corresponding connectors goes to the back rear harness, and I got to run it down like into this little kick panel spot. And then again, it comes out of this little hole here, runs down this, oh wait, is this it? Yeah, so here it is right here, this connector. So I've got to get this out of this loom and run it down through here and down into there, and it'll kind of sit down in there. And then my other connector will plug into that. It'll run the whole way down through here, come down into this channel here, and then it comes out behind this little panel here, and it runs down through this little channel, and it comes out in the trunk area. So when it comes out in the trunk area, it comes out like up here, back here somewhere, and it comes down around this fender well here, and I believe it just kind of comes down here, and then it comes up here to this bucket here, and some of the wires go here, and then some of them split off and run down underneath here. This channel goes around the whole back of the trunk. So I know I didn't need to shrink wrap the whole thing, but I couldn't figure out how to. I was thinking like maybe I'll just run a single wire the whole route and figure out what that length is and just put that much shrink wrap on it. And then I was like, no, then I'll have all these wires hanging out, blah blah blah. So this stuff is like, especially if you cinch it up, you can kind of get it to bubble up a little bit, and then maybe get some scissors in there and cut that off. You obviously have to be delicate because you don't want to nick any of your wires when you're doing that, but that's just what I decided to do, was just put sheathing over the whole thing, and then I was going to run it all, and then I was going to start to divide the wires out to where they needed to go, and then I was going to start making all my crimps and connections and stuff like that. So I've got a plan. It just always seems like you come up against these hurdles and you have to kind of think through how to solve the problem. Sometimes you just need to get out there and get working on it. Again, one bite at a time. But sometimes you can't help but think that, haste makes waste. If you just start getting into it and you're not thoughtful enough, you're gonna have to go back and redo everything. At least that's what my mind tells me. So I always have to stop, make sure if I'm not doing anything silly. So there we go. Let's do one last thing here on this end here. I'm gonna hit that with the heat gun here if I can get this camera set up here so you all can see it. Let's see here. How's this view? That looks pretty good. Got the heat gun and shrink wrap in there. So again, what I'll do is there we go. So again, I wanted to take a pair of scissors, very delicately, make sure I'm not hitting any wires there. Just make a few trims here so this isn't frayed off so bad. There we go. Maybe a little bit here. Make sure you guys are seeing that. Hopefully you are. Yeah. And then the extra wires that I had, I just took and folded them back over on themselves, shoved them back in there. So they're still kind of accessible if I need them. So we're going to push that right up in there. See if you guys can get a good take on that there. See if you can slowly spin it a little bit. This takes a little bit for this thing to get really heated up, but flip it over. So I can push that up there a little bit more, up into there. There, I like that better. So now we're just gonna keep putting the heat to it so it shrinks up really nice there, but obviously not try to burn any of your connectors or anything. Just slow turns. Flip it over. All right, I can dig that. Maybe just a little bit of space up there, but I think that's pretty good. So that's my end result. So I want all my wiring to end up like this. Shrink wrap on the end, your connector, everything's all protected and sheathed. Zip ties every so often. And I think that's going to be as good as a job as I can do on this stuff. So yeah, pretty happy with how that turned out. So next job is to, like I said, I got to cut off the end. I think I'm going to tape it temporarily as I feed it through there. I can close the end off there really nice so it'll feed through everything really good. And then once I get it run, I'll take that tape off and start running the wires so I can start to get them in position and start to get this wired. But this is a pretty good step here, getting this done. I would think this was my goal today, was just to get the shrink wrap on all this. So I'm pretty happy with this. So just like all my other videos I've been making, you know, one bite at a time. So that's a pretty good bite, I think. I'm not going to get too crazy and try to keep moving forward today, like by running it. Maybe I could do that. That's the next bite, is to run the cable, I would say. And then maybe I could just start running the wires. Basically, since I got a rhythm and a pattern with all this, I could just start laying out all the other harnesses, start to get them all wrapped up and sheathed, and run them as well. And then figure out the next step after that. So a couple handy tools that helped me on this project was, like I said, those cable ties. You really had to nip them off as close as you could so it wasn't catching on that sheathing. So these, you know, side cutters, I think is what we always call them, directional pliers maybe, I don't know, but they snip the zip tie off really nice. So I use these to snip the zip ties off. This shrink wrap kit here has helped out a lot. The company's called Wirefly. It's an assortment of zip ties. It goes from 1/8 down to 1 inch. So it's just an assortment. I'll probably end up buying even another one of these kits. Make sure I have my bases covered. But I got another kit here. These were mostly round ones, and these ones had ones that went flat like this, so they worked perfect with that sheathing. And then of course I had my new DeWalt heat gun, and that helped out a lot as well. So that's about all you need to do this kind of work here. Nothing too fancy, and you should be able to get everything done. But like I said, nice big step, one bite at a time. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll bring you back here shortly as I figure a next logical step. I really want to make some good videos on the crimping and things like that, but I wanted to make a quick video on just how I'm putting the sheath on the wires and using the shrink wrap and all that stuff, so you could see what I was doing. And I hope there was probably a couple good tips in here that'll keep you from fighting with this shrink wrap, you know, and help out. So all right, cool. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Appreciate the viewership. Go out there, spread the love around there to your friends, and have some fun today. So I'm out. I'll see you on the next one. Should be coming here. I said every 2 weeks I'm going to try to post videos. That way I can consistently put up videos and maybe do better with my algorithm, but I don't really care about that. So I care more about everybody having fun today. So go out and have some fun, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye, everybody.